Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Data Leadership Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Sherin Matthew. We're going to be talking about empowering with data, AI, and ethics too. For those who don't know, Sherin, I mean, there's not a lot you haven't done. AI activist, entrepreneur, DataIQ 100. There's so much that you're looking to do and achieve at the moment, and that's what I wanted to get you on the podcast as well, and just delve into that in a bit more detail. So as always, let's start with what's been your journey so far, Sharon?
Thank you, Richard. It's a pleasure to be here and talking to you about journey and potentially how we can empower people with data, AI, and ethics. My journey is being quite an interesting one. When I look back, I can see myself as you know, a kid passionate to design aircrafts, build crazy machines, want to do with the future Tony Stark. Um, and this is when I was probably in my school days, and with that as a passion and interest, I got into engineering. And I remember graduating, and when I graduated, I had built a robot to protect people for surveillance purpose
Oh
and to
wow.
prevent war, really, because back in the days, people, army men would go near the borders, get hit by landmines, and people get shot across the borders. And we thought, can we not just send robots to do that job?
Mm.
And just yeah. So that's always been, like, I would say, key driver for me, really making technology add value to humanity and to people. With that as an interest, after building that robot, the robot only worked for 1 minute after spending a year
Wow.
building everything from scratch. And I realized, world is not ready for robots and AI. And I got into the IT world, lovely IT world, and I started to work within the telecom sector. Slowly got into the data sector. Started to work with NHS, for example, IBM, Microsoft, and yeah, my journey's been, from being a potential inventor or innovator to a data expert. And yeah, here I am today doing a lot of exciting stuff and having my own community to evangelize knowledge, which is AI Tech North, which has built its own platform to share knowledge with a wider global audience, which is Innovation Exchange. And I'm passionate about making sure technology really helps humanity and it's ethical. So I've also built a toolkit and a framework called Public Intelligence. So yeah, a lot of things, as you said.
Yeah, it seems every time I speak to you or see you doing an update on LinkedIn, it's just something new that you're doing and something that new and exciting that you're getting stuck into. But what really strikes I suppose hits home with me is your passion and your drive to really do something and make positive change. And again, that's why I wanted to have a chat to you today, really. So I mean, so going back to the focus of today, so what do you mean, I suppose, by empowering with data?
Yeah, very, cliche statement overused in the corporate world. Empower people with data and AI. What does that really mean? Yeah, that underneath the hood, there's a lot that you can do with data, and people sometimes don't know they have good data. And data is a resource. Cliche line: data is the new oil,
Yeah.
and you need to know how to use it. So empowering means offering insights with your data. Um, a good example is you may have data about your sales from month of June, which could be, say, 2 million, sales from month of July, which could be 3 million. So the insights in between these two bar charts are the invisible insights.
Mhm.
What did he do in June and July that gave you 1 million revenue? And that's how you use data to really identify the patterns, the differentiators, and key decision supporting metrics, or transactions that you did, or changes that you did in your organization, and really extracting those invisible information from your data to make positive decisions going forward. Again, empowering means getting more value, more bang from your buck, and more ROI eventually from your own data process and audits that you have.
Mm,
Operationally, it also adds more value when you are able to see what you are actually doing. So um, another one is where you have a good Power BI dashboard or analytics dashboard where you have this operational insights in front of you. So you have a full visibility of what your business is doing. So again, it's your data, which you already had, now just plugged into a dashboard.
mm,
Yeah, commercially, then assuring that you are actually going in the right direction. So data tells you, yeah, by taking this decision, I could make 1 million. I'll do more of that next month. Probably it's going to be 5 million. Yeah.
mm.
So yeah, it's operational benefits, it's commercial benefit, and strategic decisions
And
support
always
ultimately.
linking it back to,
Yeah,
the effect on a business, the commercial aspect of it as well.
yeah, yeah,
And how do you, where does AI come into all this at the moment? Because obviously that's a real focus of your work, and
yeah.
I mean it's an exciting, but also I suppose a big unknown area to a lot of people. I know it's yeah, I know it's something I don't know a hell of a lot about, for example.
Okay. Yeah. So we currently are living in a world which is at the cusp of I'm done with digital transformation, which means everything that I had on paper on a legacy database is now getting, analyzed, exposed in front of senior managers. So yeah, digital transformation has played a huge part. And byproduct of digital transformation is a lot of information, a lot of data. Now, we know for sure businesses are not asking just for data, they're asking for insights and intelligence, yeah, or invisible insights in this case. So we're entering a new phase of digital transformation, which I call is intelligent empowerment. So really what's happening with AI is now we have so much data, it's able to recognize patterns to recognize the right decisions, the wrong decisions, the anomalies, the predictability of supply chain failing, or an
Mm,
asset, or a um, IoT device fusing or failing somewhere, or sensors saying this needs servicing at this point of time. So we have literally data everywhere, and AI literally has become the new tool to
mm,
ensure that we can make rapid decisions, we can take predictive actions, and able to sort of get intelligent insights well in advance to make those informed decisions. So yeah, data is, I would say, the underlying architecture or foundation for any AI application to be built on top of that, and it's literally the next step in a digital transformation.
yeah, it's yeah, I think obviously lots of companies are delving more and more into it, but it still is unknown to a lot of businesses. And maybe if data is not in the right place in the first place, is it,
Yeah,
maybe the best route to go? But I suppose with that there comes, and I know a lot of your work is within this, but it comes that ethical dilemma, really, isn't it? That weighing up between advancements in AI and the ethical aspect to it. So, what are your thoughts around that at the moment?
ethics is a huge topic, and we could be here all day.
Let's yeah.
But the best way to describe is AI is the new gold rush, and because of which, obviously, all the large platforms and vendors and service providers are, jumping on this, for obvious reasons, which is helps business with ROI, improves efficiency, and really augments people. But it also comes, every great things comes with some, side effects. And AI does have its consequences, especially when it becomes very much highly commercial focused, and the risk sometimes doesn't get factored. AI development lifecycle is highly complicated.
Mm,
Now, if you're building a standard software, you the process is, you know, get a design, get the developers,
yeah.
deploy, test. With anything to do with data and AI, you it's nested, which means You build a software infrastructure. On top of that, you have to manage the data infrastructure. So there's data governance and GDPR to manage, right? So whole data processing, data analyzing, cleansing, that becomes a extra layer on top of that. Then AI model management, it needs to work with this data, and it has its own life cycle. And this is called ML ops. So the whole complexity of AI kind of results into, hey, I need to get my product, AI product, out to the market soon as possible. So rapid developments sometimes makes you ignore the most important thing, which is the people.
Yeah.
How to use this intelligence? How does this product actually impact the user? And what we have noticed is with rapid development, we purely focus on the features that we need to get out to the market soon as possible. And
Mm,
that's what everyone does. What they forget is the non-functional requirement, the political impact, the social impact, the human impact, the well-being, the long-term impact on the ecosystem, the CO2 emissions. These are all afterthoughts.
yeah. Because there's just so much
That
pressure
that yeah, yeah.
commercially to, you know, make money basically.
And the side effect of all of this is, although AI is amazing and powerful technology, obviously powerful things comes with its responsibilities as well. One of the big side effect is regulations are catching up. So regulations are lagging when they see, oh, facial recognition softwares are made and they're doing that. Oh, I need to act.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Reactive.
education sectors catching up. Oh God, new um, language has been released, Python, and everyone needs to jump on this Python coding or learn this way of doing this, or a new framework's been launched, which is easier and better than the other framework. So everyone jumps on that new
Yeah,
bandwagon. So education system and upskilling people, that's always, I would say, 2 3 steps behind the innovation, which really makes it difficult for developers, students,
yeah,
and even education sector to keep up. Commercially, it's a huge race of, who gets there first, who's going to make fast and break things.
yeah.
And yeah, this is where ethics is going to step in. Now, the best way to describe ethics is, think about GDPR, because before GDPR was in place, everyone used data as in the way they want.
Mad, yeah.
Yeah, I've recently heard from someone that when GDPR was announced, the whole investment, the VC funding, the whole innovation of data applications really just dropped massively because regulations were put in place. Currently, AI is being developed in a fairly laissez-faire or open approach. I
Yeah.
can make anything I want. I can make driverless taxi. Who's going to bother? Who's going to challenge me? I can make robotic builders. I can make augmented reality newsreaders, and it's all happening, by the way. So
Bit
no
scary,
one's,
isn't it?
yeah, it's scary, and no one's challenging these advancements. So ethics is almost like having a moral code of innovation, just like we have, IT infrastructure library, software
Mm.
development life cycles, and best practices for IT software development. Yeah, we got to have something similar for AI, especially when it comes to working with human intelligence.
Why do you feel there isn't that in place at the moment, or why do you feel it is? Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, why hasn't that developed alongside it?
Very interesting question, and I wish I knew the answer to it. I've been asking these questions to various ethics experts within my network, from policymakers to governing bodies, and who have helped people draft this, EU and IEEE AI regulation guidelines. The reason is, big reason is, it's to do with intelligence. So AI replaces or displaces or augments human intelligence. So artificial intelligence is artificial human intelligence. And the biggest problem is we do not understand the meaning of intelligence, what it
Mm,
is, and how it evolves and how it operates. And we're using, maths and software to sort of map it with each other. And that's the biggest challenge. So policy writers, no offense to them, you know, it's a complex technology that we
Mm,
can't just agree, morally you should do this. Morals in certain countries, certain tribes could be completely different to
yeah,
how it
yeah,
is yeah. So I think there's that disparity and differences across different regions, culture, which has its own problem. Other thing is, it's again moral code. We're trying to get to a universal moral code, um, and everyone has a say, and everyone has created their own regulations. So it has become overly complicated. And other thing is, it has taken a view from corporate world. So it's very much to do with the commercial side of things, which is, yeah, it's got to be transparent, it's got to be fair, it's got to be safe, and that's about it. And there's a bit of a lack of agreement in all these principles
yeah.
and ethical factors that really makes AI ethical. So yeah, we see a lot of policies all trying to do almost the same thing, but
Mm,
attacking the problem in a different directions. Lack of clarity and very much a corporate drive to get this in place. So corporate bodies are supporting and advising governing bodies to make the law, whereas
right,
it
okay.
whereas it's the people who are impacted by this ultimately. So it should be coming the other way around, which is it's a
Yeah,
democratic opinion that people should voice, government should
bit,
listen, and sense check with experts.
gonna be a bit biased, isn't it, if it's all coming from a commercial point of view? Um,
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
I mean, you've touched on it a little bit there. How do the general public, how do companies, leaders educate themselves on the risks, the ethics, the whole dilemma around AI?
Yeah, so this again has been a challenge in terms of educating leaders and giving people the power and access to evaluate the risk. At this minute, another big challenge that we face is all these toolkits are secured by, big governing bodies or with consultancies in this case. So if anyone wants to create an ethical AI, they have to knock on these doors, which again is a barrier.
Mm,
I need why ethics should be transparent, ethics should be open, it should be understandable by all and free to all, because it's almost like moral code, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
moral code should not be behind closed doors. That's my opinion. So what leaders could do is really look out for the best practices and remember that sooner or later the regulations are going to come. So if you take,
Mm.
it's like if you do cheating right now, someone's going to catch you. Yeah, I know everyone's in a race, but if you're going to cut corners, someone's going to see that and it will be notified. Very similar to GDPR, right? If someone's doing dodgy stuff with data, yeah,
Yeah.
it will be flagged. So I think being people centric is the safest way forward. Being you know risk ready. What I mean by that is ready to evaluate risk, ready to understand the risk, and also taking it to the level of how far is your innovation going to disrupt
Mm,
the ecosystem and the people and the sentiments of users around us. So leaders really got to step up and really understand how you can embed ethics in your innovation and business processes. AI is a beautiful technology and it's extremely powerful. It really needs to be developed in the right fashion.
mm. Yeah, it is a little bit scary when you think of how unregulated it is right now. But you're saying that, times will change, there will be regulation come in. And I know you're doing a lot of work around this with a few different sort of ventures, I suppose, a few different campaigns, really, I suppose you
Yeah,
could call it. So public intelligence being one of those. So
yeah.
maybe just give a bit of an overview of what that means, what that
Yeah,
is.
absolutely. So public intelligence is a open public ethics framework, not just for AI, any innovation, to ensure it is protecting humans' rights. It's uh, assessing the impact on the ecosystem. It's ensuring that you are risk assessing your product or application or solution even before you are in the design or development stage.
Mm.
It also ensures you're embedding accountability in your design process. So, public intelligence is pretty much a tool, a design thinking tool, and an awareness to ensure ethics is part of your design process right at the start. One of the biggest challenge, again, what we're addressing with public intelligence is there are many ethical and governing bodies out there who are focusing on the audit and assessment route.
Mm.
But by audit and assessment, you're reacting to the problem,
Yeah.
right? Damage is already done. You audit,
Yeah.
oh, you're high risk. You need to stop. Here's the fine. 6% of the revenue of
Yeah.
multi-million billion companies is a lot of money.
Ridiculous.
So that's how extreme it will be going forward once they take this audit and assessment route. But that's reacting. What we got is a proactive tool. Public intelligence is ensuring people have a visibility when you go through the steps. So let's say there's 5 steps. Well, there is only 5 steps. First one is called right to intelligence. So when you create intelligent new innovation, we check, are you breaching human rights? And the most important human right is human right to intelligence. So what this means is this innovation going to steal or copy or displace, human capabilities like example, taxi drivers. If you're going to make driverless taxi, you're actually making them redundant and
Yeah.
pretty much replicated their skills. Because if there were no taxi drivers, you wouldn't know the concept of taxi drivers. So that intelligence really belongs to them,
Yeah.
belongs to people. If you're making a robotic chef to make the perfect steak, how do you know to make perfect steak? Because
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
very smart chef or experienced chef has showed the right temperature, right time to flip. And if robot's going to copy that and say, "Thank you, mate. You don't need to come from Monday.
Yeah.
My
Mm.
robot is going to cook the perfect steak from next week." That is breach of right to intelligence. So really makes sure you think that way, how you're displacing and working with the human intelligence or people's intelligence. And then comes the next step, which is evaluating the purpose. Is it to augment humans, or is it to displace human? Is it to automate, or is it to monitor, or is it a new experiment? Yeah.
Mm.
So it really then goes to the next step. Then based on that, okay, fine. It's okay. Let's say we are building robotic maid. It's kind of copying someone's intelligence. But if the purpose is to help people in a care home and we're
Yeah.
seeing extreme shortage, the purpose really supports that innovation.
Right.
Now, you justify that purpose, then you validate the third principle, which is disruption prevention. How are you disrupting the existing ecosystem? Are there existing jobs? Have you done your research?
Mm.
Now let's use the example of robotic surgeon. If someone went and got to this stage and they evaluate the disruption of a robotic surgeon, if that becomes a thing and replaces a surgeon, you are replacing all the process of becoming a doctor, right?
Which
The
is extensive.
schools, which is extensive, right? So school, colleges, medical school, authors, textbook, your governing certification process, all that. Imagine the CO2 wastage or emission, or the sustainability problem that it creates when you're displacing something that complex.
Mm.
So really makes you think about all of that, the speed at which you're going to change, the scale at which it's going to impact, the sentiments as well. Because if you're replacing doctors, there are generations waiting to be future doctors.
Mm.
There are existing doctors who are, bred, and they bring that's their bread and butter, right? And their families dependent on that profession. So really thinking about that as a whole
Yeah.
ecosystem that gets impacted by that whole new innovation going live. Once you've done all of that, you do risk assessment. which is harm, bias, fairness, and sustainability issues and things like that. And lastly,
Yeah,
being accountable, i.e., and by accountable, you ensure that you are thoroughly checking all of this on a regular basis. So it's like a cyclical process which sort of
yeah,
complements with every development life cycle of any new product. So if a product which was already out there in the market and uses AI, by the last step, which is called accountable redesign, you can still evaluate the whole process again. And when you do all of this, people can see this.
yeah.
People can see all these metrics and your research and your thinking transparently on public intelligence.
I think it's yeah, and it sounds fantastic, and I think it's so difficult, isn't it? It's to weigh up the balance of the benefit of AI and what's it going to do, but also the massive disruption that can come from it, and all the different people that can be affected by that. And I'm guessing by these principles, it's not necessarily a black and white yes or no answer. Like you said, it's an ongoing consideration that needs to be in place and thought about to ensure that those advancements that really are going to have a massive impact, and actually the benefit is not really supporting us in the right way or to the on the right type of thing, is not invested in and not put the time in, and it's focused on these ones that are really going to support, like you said, like a maid, that sort of thing, where there is a massive shortage. There's lots of people in needing social care and not enough resource.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And I don't know how you found the time for all this stuff, but you've also, I know that you've created AI Vantage as well. So maybe just let us know a little bit about that.
Yeah. So AI Vantage was is my consultancy arm where I thought I'm I rather help people with ethics instead of just helping them with data and AI strategy. And in this process, I obviously found a tool and a framework which I have obviously made public, which is public intelligence. So yeah, so it was more of me being a bit altruistic and making it open to people, instead of just taking a consultancy route, because that again comes down to the same challenge,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
ethics should be open, understandable, and open, accessible to all. And yeah, if I did the same thing, then what's the point? So yeah,
yeah,
so yeah, AI Vantage was my ethics and data AI consultancy arm. So I've kind of used that time and effort to make sure that really leads into something open and transparent and accessible to public. So public intelligence is I would say a byproduct of my journey to AI Vantage. And yeah, AI Vantage still is there. So public intelligence serves as a self-assessing ethics
mm,
framework and tool. AI Vantage is there to guide organizations, SMEs, startups to get that data AI strategy right at the start. And again, it's not a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday consultancy service. It's more of me stepping in to give them enough tools, enough assets,
yeah,
and guidance to help them get it right at the start,
yeah,
or let them start at the right foot. And if ethics is the big challenge, um, I'll guide through that journey of how to use the ethics tool as well. So it's more of a light consultancy, but quick to create more impact and add more value instead of being there uh, Monday to Friday. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
the service is pretty much like a ad hoc, a couple of days a month sort of service.
Yeah, and I think a lot of businesses, this is the thing, because it is so, it's not new, but because it still is a lot of the unknown. And if people do want to do stuff in the right way, then guidance is exactly what they need. So brilliant. And I suppose if we were to, I suppose wrapping this up, what would be your final sort of message, your final sort of takeaway to people that are either investing in AI and want to do things in the right way, or you just simply have an interest in AI, the general public that want to find out more?
Yeah, I would say there's a simple way to implement AI, which is, really understand your problem to start with and empathize with the people, have a really good plan. You got to really believe that it's possible, right? Because AI doesn't work right straight away, right? It does fail, and you got to have that resilience. And
Mm,
to get to have a successful AI, you need obviously the leadership. You need an architect, designer, or someone hybrid who can marry the business requirements with the technical requirements and embed ethics in the design process. And you got to think of AI as a um, teaching your teaching a child to be a good human. So yeah, you got to make sure that your technology is almost child proof,
mm,
is working and thinking about the consequences, and their boundaries defined and understood by organization and the users, making sure ethics is at the heart of it, because sooner or later regulations are going to raise the questions and going to audit and assess. You've got to be ready now, and be right from the start. I always mention, we got to think about innovation in a smart fashion. I'm going to give some example of unplanned innovations. We thought of internet, right? Internet was great. It came in and did a lot of amazing stuff. But then side effect of that was it, was breaching privacies, and
mm,
cyber security management was, afterthought, and it was really causing a lot of issues.
mm.
So we got to think about, you know, how to make sure it is safe for public and for the environment. Talking about environment, plastic. Plastic was great invention. And after a decade, there was plastic pollution.
Yeah,
And then because of pollution, we have to go and do a lot of waste management. And that
reactive
became a,
again.
exactly. So we see that, someone invents something, then we have the whole taxpayers' money being used for waste management. you know if we were have thought proactively about that, council won't be spending so much time and effort in cleaning the trash from everywhere,
Yeah.
right? Same thing with other innovations. Fast food comes with health issues, and weight management is a afterthought.
Mm,
AI obviously raises concerns about skills and the speed at which it innovates. And I think from an ethical side of things, intelligence management is the big concern. So we got
yeah.
to think about that right now. So my final uh, view will be technology should be used as a tool to empower people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly that. It's spot on. No, I think what you've created in terms of public intelligence, really trying to support. Yeah, to really try and get the message out there is fantastic. So I know that you do have a documentary, I think, coming out. Is it early next week?
Yeah. Next week, there will be a documentary called Public Intelligence, which will explain whatever I just did in 5-10 minutes, in 40 minutes. It's a really good watch, quite inspiring. A lot of new concepts. So yeah, do have a good shot of coffee before you watch it, and yeah, and support the cause, because this is again an open democratic platform, and it operates on people's vote, people's
Yeah.
opinion, and it's crowdfunded. It's not funded by any corporate bodies. So yeah, it's people driven platform. So it's an exciting project.
Well, look, Sharon, I really appreciate your time today. I know how busy you are, but I think everything you're doing is fantastic. Any
Thank you.
way that I can support that, I will do, and I'll definitely share a lot of the links to all of this
Thank you.
information when I post the podcast as well. So, yeah, I really appreciate your time, Sharon.
No problem. Nice to be here and great to share all this amazing work with you. Thank you.